To the city of Joburg now, where the member of the Mayoral Committee for Finance, the ANC's Dada Morero, currently delivering the budget speech for the forthcoming financial year. He's on his feet giving that address right now. Miyelani Holeni is the Group Chief Advisor at the Ntiyiso Consulting Group, an expert on municipal finances. Miyelani, good afternoon to you. This is a really difficult moment for Joburg. We have the budget speech underway at the moment. They have to debate it and vote to pass it tomorrow. What happens if the council doesn't pass it? Could the city of Joburg be taken into administration?
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. And I think you've summed it up aptly, because this is a very difficult moment. If one just listens to the opening speech of the MMC for Finance, he outlined, I think, a very grim picture of where the city of Johannesburg is. He further went on to outline the historical heights that where city of Johannesburg was. If you now look at where the numbers are currently, I think, it's a city which, as he also said in his speech, is in the ashes, and it needs to rise from the ashes. So it is crucial that the budget be passed. And if that budget is not passed, it means that the city of Johannesburg and its residents are not going to be enjoying the benefits of having a city that's going to function and deliver services. In this case, we are talking about a city which is supposed to deliver to millions of people, as well as making sure that the business keep on ticking. So yes, it's and also to ensure that they can still borrow and be able to fund, their projects going forward.
It's easy to say that a budget, if you deliver a budget, that gives you a huge amount of power. But actually, things are locked in. Salaries are already budgeted for. You can't really change those. You'll have to increase them, perhaps, but you can't stop paying them. There'll be demands to spend money on infrastructure, but that money needs to come from somewhere. How much room to move does Councillor Morero have here? It would seem both financially very difficult and then politically, dare I say, impossible.
I think it sits at a position where at least there's an enormous amount of work. He also mentioned in this speech the need to have financial sustainability, which is what a multitude of the cities, as well as the locals and the districts in some cases, are struggling to reach. But the key thing about a budget is that it must be fully funded. And the sources of funding, of course, that are available from a city's point of view, the first major one is collections, which is some money that must come from the residents, from business, and all the various sources of revenue for the city. So that means that must work. The revenue department is going to be very busy within the city. Not only that, but even within the entities who are responsible for trading services or for generating revenue, be it the major line items for revenue. So the plans which are being outlined today must cascade into the MOEs, such as City Power, Joburg Water, Pick It Up, and all the other entities that must fund this particular budget. The second issue, of course, is equitable share, which the cities do not enjoy a large share on the equitable share, but something that we can deem as being sufficient to be able to carry out the free basic services. So as he was speaking, at least we'll cover some of the indigent bases. But the reality is that having to go into the financial markets to borrow, the city of Johannesburg does not have a good rating given where it is currently. So that shortfall, I think, is the headache that the administration is going to have to face, and perhaps start looking for more innovative ways of getting that revenue in. They spoke of revenue enhancement, which, of course, is something that must still unfold so that it can support the budget. Otherwise, the service delivery will suffer significantly.
Miyelani, it would seem to me impossible for the city of Joburg to get more money out of residents and businesses in the city. The city is not selling nearly as much electricity as it used to. It's not providing water to many places much of the time. That means that those sources of revenues have, excuse the expression, dried up. At the same time, many people simply can't afford to pay rates. There's a story just this morning coming out of developments yesterday that around 214 billion rand is owed to councils across the country by households. I mean, in a way, I hate to say this, but I think we might have to start being realistic. There's no way South African households are going to pay 214 billion rand to councils. That money's never going to be paid back.
So Stephen, I think in this case, the residents out there are sitting in a position where if in any event the city of Johannesburg has had erratic billing, residents or customers of the city end up giving up and not paying the city at all. What the city needs to do to jumpstart the revenue is what we spoke about the last time, to looking at differentiated tariffs across of consumption across the various areas, to be able to get into a place like Soweto and all the various places where there may be difficulties. You can imagine there's over 1 million residents within Soweto, maybe approaching 1.5 or north of 1.5 million. At an average amount of 500, if they are able to determine how much an amount which must be paid per household, regardless at this stage of what the consumption could look like. But you have a state where you are not receiving payments, to a state where you can at least set some kind of a differentiated rate, and the multiplier from there on means that you can start collecting from there. So some of the issues are not as impossible as they seem, but it's obviously there's the out of the box thinking that the city has to come up with. Of course, the losses from an electricity point of view, which are determined by the illegal connections, is what the city needs to clamp down on, not only on electricity, but also on water, so that they can reduce the losses. But here's the kicker. The technical losses within municipalities are very high, especially what the city of Joburg also attests to. And those are programs which are fundable from financial institutions because they have a direct impact on the increase in revenue. The likes of the DBSA love those programs where they are solving electricity losses, water losses, and some of the private financial institutions also love that. So the city of Johannesburg will have to also work with its bankers very closely, because the story that says if you help give us 1 billion rand, we'll be able to return or increase our revenue by 5 billion rand, or whatever the number is, I think it's a plausible story for any financial institution. So it remains that there will have to be borrowings, especially around the capex. The capex was said to be sitting at 4.4 billion. For a city like Johannesburg, we need to have at least capex sitting north of 10 billion because of the activity that is required. Of course, the other part to it is the maintenance is the one that is crucial, because it will keep that infrastructure generating revenue. So the task is mammoth, but it requires to be dissected into key manageable packages which can be rolled out within the various departments.
Miyelani Holeni, we could talk about the problems in our councils or just in Joburg all day. For the moment, though, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Really do appreciate the time. Miyelani's Group Chief Advisor at the Ntiyiso Consulting Group, an expert, as you can hear, on municipal finances. In a moment.